On the edge of Spain, where the mountains meet the sea, a quiet town holds a secret buried for over 30 years. In the shadows of forgotten files, lies the truth no one dared to uncover. Welcome to the Lost Chronicle Files. In the small coastal town of Portbou, Spain, perched on the border with France, locals have long whispered about a mystery that began one September morning in 1990. A young woman's body was discovered hanging from a tree, just steps away from the cemetery. She had no identification, no bag, no shoes. For over 30 years, no one knew her name. She became known only as the Nameless Girl of Portbou. It was September 4, 1990. Portbou is a quiet place, a sleepy seaside village known more for its scenic cliffs than for secrets. But that morning, a gravekeeper noticed something strange. Hanging from a pine tree, in a cactus-lined area near the cemetery, was a lifeless figure. A teenage girl. There were no signs of a struggle. No footprints leading up to the tree. Her shoes were carefully placed beside her. Her body bore no identification. And yet, her socks and feet were spotless, odd for someone who had supposedly climbed through thick vegetation to take her own life. Local authorities moved quickly. Too quickly, many would later say. Within just a few hours, they ruled the case a suicide. No autopsy. No fingerprinting. She was quietly buried in a communal grave in the nearby town of Figueres, without a name, without answers, without dignity. For decades, the case remained cold. The girl's identity was a mystery. No one came forward. No missing persons report matched her description. In time, she became a ghost, whispered about by locals and featured occasionally in obscure true crime forums as Portbou's lost soul. But then, in 2022, over 30 years later, everything changed. A popular Austrian television show aired a segment about the case. One viewer, watching from South Tyrol, Italy, paused. She recognized something. A face. A sweater. A haunting familiarity. She called the station immediately. The girl, she said, looked exactly like Evi Anna Rauter, a 19-year-old from the Italian Alps who had gone missing in September 1990. Evi had left her sister's apartment in Florence on the 3rd of September, just one day before the body was found in Portbou. She was never seen again. With this tip, authorities reopened the case. Photos were compared. Clothing matched. Even a label in the sweater found on the body was traced to a shop in Evi's hometown. Finally, 32 years later, the nameless girl had a name. Evi Rauter. But if you think that's where the story ends, think again. Her identification reopened old wounds, and new questions. If Evi's death was a suicide, why were there no signs of her walking through the dense cactus-covered terrain? Why were her socks clean? How did she end up in Spain, just one day after leaving Florence, without any travel documents? Her family believes Evi may have trusted someone who promised her a ride or adventure. Someone who may have had darker intentions. And the more investigators dig, the more troubling the inconsistencies become. In 2023, her family requested to exhume her remains for a proper burial back home. But the grave, in the overcrowded communal cemetery, had long since been lost. her final resting place. Unknown, again. Evi's story is not just a cold case reopened. It's a haunting reminder of how the unidentified are sometimes treated, as if their lives ended with the mystery. But behind every nameless victim is a story, a family, a life worth remembering. Today, Evi Rauter has a name. And perhaps, with time, the truth about what happened in Portbou will finally come to light. What we uncovered is just the beginning. More untold stories await. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also comment down below what do you think of this story.